From Audiotocracy, this is the Picnic Podcast, where we introduce delicious products that belong together. I'm Rachel Miller-Howard. Today, an absolutely quintessential pairing, wine and cheese. Brought to you by Lori Babcock of Tieton Farm in Tieton, Washington, and Kevin Mueller of Virtue Cellars in Shoreline, Washington.
I'm Lori Babcock, and my partner Ruth Babcock and I run Tieton Farm and Creamery. I think we just started our 11th year in business. We opened our doors in 2010. Before we started to farm, we really had, day jobs, 9-to-5 jobs. We both lived in Seattle for a long time. We both worked for a software company, and we both were sort of in a place where we didn't want to do it the rest of our lives.
Lori and Ruth wanted to do something hands-on and connected to the earth. They wanted to start a farm.
So time was getting short. We started to look around, and we had a cousin who had property in Bellevue that was under power lines and a swampland. So we actually practiced farm there, kept our day jobs, practiced farm for 5 years, just to really know if we could and wanted to do it permanently, which it just kept growing on us and for us. We first started with vegetables, and we had chickens, and we had turkeys, and I think we added the goats. When we added the goats is when we added dairy goats. So that's when the cheese making started in. Then that was just the beginning of the adventure.
Lori and Ruth eventually purchased property in Tieton in central Washington. Then came the 2008 financial crisis. Lori and Ruth had to scale back their vision, but they kept going, and their hard work paid off. On the farm today, Ruth runs the gardens and pastures and tends to the animals. And Lori makes the cheese.
I love so many things about making cheese. I love when the milk comes in from the morning that the animals have just been milked. Like the milk hasn't even been chilled. It just comes in to the cheese rooms straight 50 yards from where the animals were being milked. And it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful medium. It's perfectly white.
From there, the science kicks in.
The cheese making process, in a nutshell, is you have to ferment the milk, and then you're going to coagulate the milk, and then you're going to cut the curd, and then you're going to make something small, big, your formats are all over the map. And those are your variables. Time and temperature changes each and every one of those steps, and depending on what it is you want to make with it. So once you ferment the milk and coagulate it, then there's a step where you get to cut the curd, and that's just magic.
Lori says she loves thinking about generations before, going through the exact same process.
It's an ancient process, like it's been something that's been going on for thousands of years, and you really can't improve upon that exact particular piece of it. This is how it's done. You have to ferment the milk, and then you coagulate it, and then you cut the curd, and then you make the cheese. And it predates agriculture. I mean, people have been doing it for so very long, and it's how you preserve spring and summer for the fall and the winter when you don't have the protein and the other essential things like fat that you need for your diet. This is how you do it. And I just love how ancient it is.
It's difficult for Lori to pick her favorite cheese. They're all fantastic. But there is one in particular that really makes her wax poetic.
Overall, the most complex cheese I make, and probably my favorite because of that, would be Reba, which is a washed rind. So it's a cheese that I spent probably 2 years on a hit and miss campaign to create my homage to the great French cheese, Reblochon, which is coming from that area in France. It's near Geneva, the eastern Alps area, where they make amazing cheeses.
Lori created her own special wash to make the cheese a unique local product.
It has the wash rind, meaning I take my own special blend of cultures, and we call it, a wash. So we wash the outside of the rind for so many days, kind of babying this cheese till it gets to a certain point. And then I stop the washing and just sort of watch it age for several weeks and see how it's developing. At which point it either gets wrapped and continues to age in its wrapping for, I don't know, another week or two until it's ready for tasting and then dispersion out into the real world. And it has this little layer of cream right underneath the rind, and then the paste in the middle is a little bit firmer. So as you cut into it, you can sort of feel all these different sensations of, cracking into the rind, and then it soft little cream, and then the paste, and then the cream, and then the rind again. So you just have these layers of textures that will all have their own flavor profile and will all add to the, unique experience of eating a cheese like that.
There's something about cheese that's just kind of romantic. It has a distinct personality, and the Reba cheese is actually named for a specific individual.
She was a very classically beautiful animal. She would be one who could win, first prize at a contest or something like that. Centerfold for goats, if you would. She just was very sophisticated. She was beautiful and she knew it. So she sort of had that little attitude about, I'm very special and I should have the most special cheese named after me.
And if Reba were to go on a date?
If you would want to date me, I think you better bring something with you to the party. Like you're going to have to be a pretty special guy.
So who would be a catch for Reba?
I kind of see Reba as either something effervescent, like it could be champagne, but I don't think that she would really not appreciate beer. Like beer would be okay too. Beer and cheese go great together. And it has to be a nice beer, a good beer, preferably probably something hoppy since she likes hops so much. And something that, local. I think that would be important to Reba, that you would be, somebody that supported local agriculture that way. And that, probably fairly upscale.
Or maybe Reba's perfect match is a delicious wine from Virtue Cellars. Kevin Mueller is the owner and winemaker, and just like Tieton Farm, it all started with passion.
Yeah, it's definitely a family passion business for us. So I was someone who was always interested in the chemistry and the process of winemaking, and enjoyed the product as well for years, and was discussing my interests over time with friends, getting into it. But it was sort of a lot of talk, and I wasn't actually doing anything about it.
So Kevin connected with an established winemaker to learn the ins and outs of making wine, but he had his eye on starting his own label.
My wife and I were married in 2015. I think one of the first dates I took her on was a fruit pickup run to Eastern Washington, and asked her at the time if she was interested in getting involved in winemaking and production, and she said yes, but I'm not sure she knew exactly what she was getting into at that point. So we made our first barrel in 2013. It was one barrel. This year, I think we're going to produce somewhere north of 60 barrels of wine.
Kevin appreciates the attention, labor, and love that goes into winemaking.
To me, it strikes a human chord because it represents sort of the idea that there's no shortcut to quality, if that makes sense. So to make a good bottle of wine, it can't be fabricated. It can't be built in a lab. It requires years of dedication, many, many, many man hours of work, both in the farming of the fruit and then the production of the wine itself. And even then, in the bottle, it has so much evolution that takes place to get to a point where you're finally enjoying it, that I think to me it just kind of encompasses the spirit of like sort of the antithesis of a lot of today's societal sort of norms, which is instant gratification and immediate sort of like responses. But for me, the cool part about it is there really is no shortcut in winemaking. It's a long and strenuous process that you have to invest in to really see the benefits of. So I don't know if everybody would see it that way, but that's how I sort of perceive sort of some of the emotions around winemaking.
When the pandemic started, Kevin and his wife created a tasting box for people to enjoy a wine tasting at home.
When you open the box, you'll see an insert which holds 4 different 5-ounce bottles of wine. And in the middle, we have a nice dark chocolate pairing with also a Virtue branded logo. And it's just a way to enable folks who can't otherwise join us in person to experience a Virtue tasting at home in the safety of their home during a pandemic, and basically allow us to bring the wine to them rather than them coming to us to taste the wine.
And if we were to create an online dating profile for this box?
Online dating profile for the tasting box. I would say it would be a fun-loving, like open-hearted, take it or leave it kind of a profile. Sort of someone who has many different sides to their personality. Since the box itself has 4 different wines, you may like all of them, you may like none of them, and the box doesn't really care, but they're sort of unapologetically promoting the 4 different parts of their personality in the 4 wines, and offering themselves to come try them, see what you like, kind of a thing.
And a good match for the tasting box?
I think the ideal partner is somebody who's open-minded and willing to try new things, because the box itself is, offering 4 very distinct and different experiences, and its perfect partner would be somebody who's willing to try all 4, and then be open about what they like and what they don't like, and go from there.
Both Reba and the Virtue Box are confident, authentic, self-assured personalities. But do they make a good pair? You'll just have to get your hands on both products so you can taste for yourself. Learn more at tietonfarmandcreamery.com and virtuecellars.com. Special thanks to Lori Babcock and Kevin Mueller for chatting and laughing with me. This episode was produced and edited by me, Rachel Miller Howard. Our theme music is by Darren Robinson. I hope you have a delicious day.